Welcome to the Extra Podcast, a production of Northview Community Church in Abbotsford, British Columbia. Your hosts, Jeff, Ezra, and Thaleia, will be discussing the Bible, relevant issues, and current events each week. At Northview, we love to study God's Word and discuss how it applies to our lives, but we try not to take ourselves too seriously. So feel free to laugh with us and at us as we try to challenge and encourage you in your faith.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Extra Podcast. My name is Thaleia. I'm one of the pastors on staff, and I'm here with two of my colleagues, Jonathan Giesbrecht.
Hi.
Jeff and Ezra are on holidays, and we've got...
Okay, let's just cut right to it.
Yep.
I was the bottom of the barrel.
Kind of.
Like, it's spring break. No one's here. Oh, John's here. So
Yeah. That's kind of how it went.
So fortunate to get to hear this one.
And Josh Amazonis.
Hello.
Best last name on staff, I think.
It's pretty great.
Yeah,
You
it's
said
pretty
that
great.
every single podcast.
I know, it's so great.
It's the first time I've heard it, so
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
Do you guys have nicknames?
Nope. When I was like 4, it was Joshua Giraffe.
You
but-
do have a nickname, Joshua Ua.
Yeah, only by you
I don't
though.
even, no, it's not me. It's Caleb. It's not just me.
Okay, there's two people
Whatever.
who call me Joshua.
Joshua Ua. My nickname growing up was Geese or Geezer or something like that.
Yeah.
It's anything geezy.
I like calling you Mr. J. I don't
Mr.
know
J.
why.
I
but
think you're the only one who calls me that, but
Yeah, it's
I
kinda fun.
respond to it. I'm like,
I know you do.
what? Yeah, so.
And are you mostly Jonathan, or are you Johnny or John, or what are you?
Yeah, it depends where you know me from.
Okay.
So if you knew me from my childhood, it was Jonathan, and then when I was in high school, I went by John, and then when I went to college, there was a couple of Johns in around my dorm and stuff. So I went by Johnny.
Oh,
And then once I started working, I went back to Jonathan because it was a little more professional than Johnny.
well, because you had a Johnny too, as your
And we also had a Johnny. Yeah.
Johnny
No,
Markin.
I meant when I was working before Northview. But yeah, no. Then when you came to Northview, it was convenient. I was going by Jonathan because there was a Johnny and a John Mulder who was
Right
around the same time. So and John Pazook. So I just went by Jonathan. So I know who you are based off of what you. Or I know where I know you from based off of what you call me generally. So
That's really neat.
There's a while here where people were also calling you Johnny.
Yeah, it just
and
got
it
really
was
confusing.
The worst.
Yeah.
Do I respect him? Do I not respect him? Which Johnny is it?
Should I listen? Not
Should I
listen?
listen or Mock him? What do I do? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it depends where you know me from. So.
Okay. So we have to talk ice cream. When I was a kid,
Ooh.
my dad used to take us for ice cream to Baskin Robbins.
Okay.
Yeah. Highlight. Waffle cone, chocolate mousse royale was my absolute favorite. So what do you guys like for ice cream? Cup or cone? And then what are your favorite flavors?
So yeah, I would have been when I was younger, I was a bubblegum.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Bubblegum
The blue one?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
It was just. I don't know if it was just because it was infrequent or just
Yeah.
a
There's
unique
something
one,
to
but
that when you
it was-
can't get it
Yeah.
often.
And
It's
it was
just better.
so
Because
good.
no mom stocked blue ice cream in their
No,
freezer.
of course
no.
not. But I had it recently. A couple years ago, probably. I was like, "Oh, bubblegum ice cream!" And I was like, so excited. And I had it, and I was like, "This is kind of gross." So I can't say that I'm probably more just your classic, chocolate with chocolate chips,
It's just good.
more chocolate,
Yeah.
chocolate fudge, all of it.
Yeah. So what are the worst flavors? Like, you can't understand why people would order it kind of ice cream.
I've just never been a fan of the fruit ones.
Oh, okay.
Truthfully, I mean the strawberry is fine, I guess, but I don't really get it. And then you know what? Anything with like a lot of nuts.
Oh, yeah. Horrible.
I'm just
That's fair.
No.
Yeah.
like the peanut butter parfait.
Yeah.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
The peanuts, but even there, I'm like, man, this would be awesome if it didn't have the peanuts.
Totally.
Which is weird because most people
Yeah.
are like that's what makes
No.
this dessert.
Horrible.
But it's not for me.
No?
Not for me.
And I don't get like tiger, like black licorice and orange.
Oh,
like that's
yeah.
bleh.
Oh no.
Okay, so beforehand, I was trying to think of ice creams that I didn't like.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't think of any, but now you guys are giving me so many ideas. These all sound bad.
Like rum raisin, horrible.
All sound-
Oh my
Who would
goodness.
do that?
raisins in ice cream.
Wait,
Rum raisin.
what?
It doesn't have actual raisins.
Oh,
it just
okay.
has,
Just
I
has
don't know.
rum?
Yeah. And sometimes they have walnuts in there, and I'm
Yeah,
like, that's
no.
disgusting.
No.
Yeah, the crunch with the cold ice stuff.
doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
No.
not great.
No.
No.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
anyone who
waffle,
disagrees, you're wrong.
Yeah.
waffle cones or a cup?
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
Okay.
Depends on the day.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. As long as the ice cream gets in my body somehow.
Yep.
That's funny. Okay, so Jonathan,
Yeah.
what do you like to do in your free time? Not that you have much free
Did you
time.
say what free time?
Right.
Ah, man. So little bit of free time I do have, I play on a soccer team,
Nice.
Oh, you do?
and I'm really old. Josh, I'm ashamed.
And you're only like
I used
31,
to be-
right?
I'm 30. I'm turning
Okay,
31
30.
this year.
Okay.
I used to be really athletic. I actually ran a marathon once.
Wow.
But now I'm like, I sprint up and down the field once, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. And I look slow. You know when people run and you're like, man,
Yeah.
that guy I look slow.
You can tell they're trying really hard,
Yes,
but they're
and
not
they're not
moving.
moving.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm that guy.
We
now.
need more ice cream.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe the problem is I had too much. I don't know. But I'm just, I just don't have a lot of time to keep up the cardio to play soccer the way
Yeah.
Because you've got little kids
I
at home. They
do.
need you and love
Yeah.
playing with you.
And life is busy. I've been working on a number of different projects and
Some renos for your home, I think.
renos. Yeah, and I've been doing some school and work. So and then family. So
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
yeah, good times.
So what do you listen to in your car when you commute?
Team 1040.
Yeah.
Team 1040. Sports radio all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't actually remember the last time I listened to. This is weird. I was a worship pastor, right? I do worship. Everyone assumes I'm like super musical and like I get music theory and like I think I can play music, but I'm not a huge music junkie. Like a lot of people I know who are like,
Okay.
oh yeah, I listen to these bands and have you heard this band? I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah, actually, I noticed that too, doing worship a lot, like the last few years, that I stopped listening to worship music in my spare time.
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay.
Does it
Because
feel
you're
like
so
work?
immersed in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I have a hard time personally. I have a hard time listening to music and not like gutting it and like looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
all the little parts.
Dissecting
And,
it.
yeah.
All the
totally.
theology. Oh, this is
Yeah,
wrong.
or
This
like-
is not singable.
Yeah, and for like musical, like I wouldn't have gone to the that
chord is
that chord
pretentious.
is lame. Yeah, right. When you hear like a chord, you're like, oh, he's trying so hard.
Yeah.
Why would you put a minor third in there? That's awful. And you just start to like get over judgy. And I'm like a cynic at the best of times. So you start to get over judgy and like, oh, that was awful. I could do that better. And
What about music concerts? Would you go to any?
I haven't been to a concert in a long time.
So who would
it's
you go
probably been a
watch
long
if they
time.
came to town?
Oh man, I'm gonna incriminate myself here. I would probably
Backstreet Boys.
no. I would probably go to a Petra concert.
Oh, yeah.
If
Nice.
Petra had like, I'd probably cut again. I'd have to find time in my day, but
Yeah.
that's something I would cut.
Okay.
Also-
I grew up on Petra.
Nice.
I know.
I also want to know what your first concert you ever went to was.
Delirious.
Oh, nice.
Ah.
Okay.
Delirious concert.
That's not as embarrassing as I hoped.
Nope. Could have been way worse. I was a big fan of Delirious, and some people who I kind of their mentor figures. They indoctrinated me in Delirious, so I'm a big fan. They
My
did
first concert as a youth group person was the Keith Green Memorial Concert. It was at the
Nice.
P&E Coliseum when I was, I don't know, early high school, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really amazing. I hadn't really ever heard of Keith Green before, and we went as a youth group, and it was like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Keith Green when I was in like elementary school.
Yeah.
My mom had one CD that I just played forever.
Totally.
See,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
Petra for me.
Okay.
I told my mom I wanted to listen to rock music, so she gave me a Petra CD.
Totally.
Nice.
Which is like,
What about like White Heart and any of those?
Oh yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Petra was the one I probably had the most affinity for, but I'm very. And then my closet band that I would love to see is Def Leppard.
Oh,
Big fan.
You
I don't know,
are a
I'm not-
rocker.
I love glam rock. It's just something
Nice.
about it is just over the top and ridiculous that I'm like, oh yeah. You're not trying to be something. You're just trying to be as weird as you can,
Yeah.
and I love that.
fun.
It's not like trying to be like super artistic and
Oh,
really
yeah.
feel the
Full of
music. They're
themselves.
just like, ah!
Yeah.
Great.
Literally.
yeah. Well, yeah. So I love that. But my most memorable concert though was Starfield in
Oh.
Central Heights.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
were
a
you
memorable
I was
one.
there.
at the
Yeah.
one?
That was an event.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the floor gave out and
In the mosh pit
in
area.
the mosh pit, yeah. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah. That was.
That was I think I was about 19. I was a youth leader, volunteer youth leader at my church, and that was the first and only event that I was a youth leader for. After that, I
No
quit.
way. Nice.
That would have been hard to be a youth leader at that.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just that I love youth.
So where did you grow up, Jonathan?
I was born in Vancouver, but my family moved out to Abbotsford when I was like 3. So Abbotsford.
So what was your home church growing up?
My home church was Wellspring Christian Fellowship, tiny little church.
Yep.
We spent most of my growing up was in a gym, setting up tear down. My mom and dad were the worship team. which if you know my mom and dad and their musical abilities, I mean, they're both amazing singers, but like my dad, he cannot understand time signatures.
Ooh,
he doesn't understand
tough.
how people count
Yeah.
and sing. He's a choir guy, right?
Yeah.
He's an old Mennonite
Yeah.
kind of classics.
Yeah.
So he's like,
Yeah.
when you start, when the conductor's hand goes down.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
counting. Why
Yeah.
are you counting? How do you count and sing at the same time? So
Yeah. But in a small church plant,
it was
everybody
great.
pitches
Yeah,
in.
It was great. So that was the way they contributed and helped
Yeah.
with tear down and all that stuff. So that was where I started.
Okay.
Yeah, and then long story short, when I got married, my wife and I ended up coming to Northview because we knew some people here, and
No, you can't skip over that
I
fast.
skipped a lot. I skipped a lot.
So you went to MEI.
Yeah, so first I actually went to Harry Sayers. That was
Okay.
that was the school we lived by. That was actually the building that we were setting up in.
Okay.
We used the Harry Sayers gym at the time. And then when the elementary school opened, the MEI elementary school, that was when my family moved over there.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was me, and then I have 2 younger brothers and a youngest
Mm-hmm.
sister. She's the baby of the family.
That would be our
So-
very favorite Kendra.
That's Kendra.
Uh-huh. Sometimes leads worship here.
The best
one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's okay. I taught her everything I know.
Don't
Nice.
listen, Kendra.
Took me about 2 minutes, and that was all I had.
I'm curious. So I know you're very musical.
Yeah.
Kendra's pretty musical.
Yeah, we all
Are
are.
your other siblings?
Yeah, all of us.
All
We
of us,
all are. I mean, we're all a little bit different. My one brother's a bit of a metalhead. He can sing. He just doesn't like to sing. We try to convince everyone he's adopted just because he doesn't look like the rest of us. But my youngest brother and my sister and I, we all look very similar. We are all singers. And Kendra probably picked up the guitar more than the other two. My one brother's mostly just. I mean, we all grew up playing piano. We all are trained Royal Conservatory.
Yep.
It was part of our. After we came home from school, we
It's
all
the
had to play
Mennonite
piano.
way.
I
Yep.
hated it.
Totally.
Same.
I refused to tell my parents it was
How
good
far
for
did you
me.
go?
All grade 8.
Okay.
Grade 8 Royal Conservatory and the grade 2 rudimentary theory. So.
Oh, yeah. I had to do the whole thing.
yeah.
All the way to
grade 10?
ARCT.
Oh, you did ARCT?
Yeah. And
Oh, that's right,
all
I
the
knew this.
theories that went all the way along.
You are like more certified to do music than I am.
I tried to drop
So-
out in grade 10, and my parents would have none of it.
Ah,
They're like,
good.
you've gone this far, you have to finish.
I made such a stink, and that's why I play guitar now.
You got out of it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What grade?
So,
Grade 3.
yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
was grade 6 in middle school, and
Yeah.
I was just like every week I complained, and I was like, just let me play guitar.
Oh,
See, my brother tried that, but my parents' resolve was,
Die Hard.
yeah, it was admirable. They told us right from the beginning, you're going all the way to grade 8. So
Okay.
there was no negotiation there. So
Yeah.
we're all fairly musical. A little bit different musical styles that we all kind of follow, but we're all. I don't think any of them are glam rockers.
So you went to MEI Elementary.
Yeah, then I went to MEI in grade 4,
Okay.
and then stuck it all the way through till I graduated. So,
And you graduated with one of our other famous colleagues.
yeah, well, there's a couple of them
Mr.
actually. A couple of our immerse interns as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Sean Hildebrandt and
Yeah.
John Mulder were in my grad class, but so was Greg Harris.
Yes.
Yeah, the legendary Greg Harris.
Uh-huh.
Which is funny because when you look at Greg, you look at him and you're like, how old is he? And you're like, I don't know, like late 30s. And you look at me and they're like, oh, like can't be older than like 26. But we're the same age, just to be clear.
The beards help.
Yeah, he's
You
got
know?
a nice thick beard. I'm still working
Yeah.
on mine.
Yeah, as soon as you guys shave yours off, it's like
you
you
look
drop
like
down like to
babies
25.
again. I know.
Younger.
It's not good. But no, he's him and I. We were actually, yeah. I wouldn't call us like friends in high school, but we had a lot of similar circles, and so we knew each other very well. Kind of were involved. We both actually were involved in the worship team at MEI in our final year. So and
Okay.
choir and everything like that. So
So if we would have talked to you in grade 11, 12 at MEI, where would you have thought that you were headed for a career?
I would have thought I would have been a business owner.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, when I did my my career test,
Yeah.
the top 3, number 3 was a salesman. I guess I do that.
Yeah.
Number 2 was a military sergeant,
Ooh.
which
no.
kind of had a little conflict with
see
my,
it.
my
Cannot.
pacifist. Actually, I could do it.
I can't see
I
it.
can't
though.
see it.
Yeah, I know, whatever. So military sergeant. and
We
then the-
win, Josh. There's no way.
It's the pacifist thing that would have been. Yeah,
Yeah, that would have been hard.
because I have some sympathies to pacifism.
I can't even
Destroy
wear
my
camel
clients,
clothing
Oh, really?
because
Oh, see, I don't have a problem with that 'cause I'm a
I feel
hunter,
like yeah, true. I feel like I'm offending relatives somewhere.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
But the number one job recommendation was a CEO.
Okay.
Wow.
So my disposition is a lot more management and
Yeah.
corporate kind of.
So you wanted that because of the tests, or had you had your eyes
Oh
on?
no, the test
business?
just verified
Oh, okay.
like how I've always felt. So
Yeah.
So after high school, I did 1 year at CBC. I just felt like it was a good thing to do to kind of ground yourself in faith. And then after that, my intention was to work.
Okay.
And so my dad and his brothers were involved in a company locally here in Abbotsford, and I worked there. I started on production, doing the gruntiest grunt work you could possibly do, and ended up doing, moving into a little bit more of a kind of production area coordinator, and ended up accidentally selling a house package of windows. The company's a window company, and I ended up selling a really big package to an acquaintance, and kind of accidentally started doing sales. Which was an adventure. So my plan all along, though, was I never actually explicitly said it, but my plan all along was to kind of move into management there and kind of take over. And actually, what pulled me out of there was my friend group at the time had gone on a kind of like what our young adults do, Float Fest, but we had done something else in the States, and a really close friend of mine who was there, he went on a run. So again, I was a runner back in the time. I would have been there with him, but I had to work. So he went on a run, and he got hit by a car. There was a kid who was driving his older brother's sports car, and he came around a corner way too fast and just, killed him instantly. So that was the I'll use a sports term, but the TSN turning point in my life, where it was like that changed things for me. So after that, I had this discontentedness about life. I would have been like 20 or 21 at the time, so still fairly young, but just like I didn't suddenly I was second guessing whether my trajectory was where my skill set was supposed to be.
What do you think the connection is between that accident and?
I think it just woke me up to the finality that we experience on Earth, right? This you feel a level of immortality as a young adult, right? And I still to some degree feel that, but like you just feel like it's just you determine when your end is, and it was a shock that you don't.
Yeah.
And what happens if I die tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's a song I wouldn't recommend the artist by any means, but there's a song that came out shortly after that by whatever. But it basically has that lyric: if I die tomorrow, like what happens after that? Like what would people say about me? How will I be remembered? And I started wondering that, and I was like, I don't feel like there's a lot of good things to say about me. Not that I'm a bad person. I didn't do anything. Like if you use this analogy or this parable of the master giving the servant talents, I was a guy who kind of had buried them. In hindsight, I would say that I would have buried them. And it's not to say that the job I was doing was the reason. It just was everything I was focused on.
Yeah.
The job was great. The people were great. Many of the people actually went to Northview and was a connection to Northview, but I don't know. I just felt like this discontentedness. So I ended up going on a missions trip at the recommendation of my mentor through Multiply. At the time, it was MB Mission, and that's where I met my wife. She had just finished her degree in kinesiology and was kind of wanting to do something different. So she ended up coming out to do the same program. So we met there.
Because she's from Ontario, I think.
Yeah. Her dad was a pastor in a church in Ontario. So she has a whole another side story of how she ended up at Trek. The program's called Trek. So we met there. I did a missions trip. We both led different teams in different areas. I was in Lithuania. And the one thing I found when I was out there was that I really didn't know my Bible very well at all. I was leading a team doing missions, and I was reading a passage in like Mark, and one of the locals would say, "Hey, what did Jesus mean when he said this?" And I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I really don't know. Yeah. And I had no idea. My plan all along was to go on a mission trip and go back to work. But I felt when I was out there, I was like, you don't know your Bible nearly enough to actually do what you feel God calling you to do, which was, at the time, I didn't really know what that was, but I just felt like I needed to go learn my Bible. So I actually went back to CBC. My first year was a worship arts year, but truthfully, I just did that because I like music, and I wasn't really interested in being a worship pastor. If you would have told me I was going to be a worship pastor when I was in high school, I would have laughed at you and said that's a bad idea. So my plan was never to do that. And then after my missions trip, the plan still wasn't to be a worship pastor. So I went back and I continued in a degree in biblical studies because I wanted to learn my Bible. And then long story short, my wife and I got married.
Well, you can't miss the pieces. You had somewhere in there you did an internship.
Well, so it was after we got married.
Okay.
Yeah, after we got married. And then we started coming to Northview because, again, she's from out of town. We had some friends. She didn't really know anyone from my local church. So so we had some friends at Northview. We started attending there, and that's where I first heard about the internship program. So I just already started attending, and then I applied to be a worship intern. And the reason I was a worship intern was because my major was biblical studies. My minor was in worship arts, and I don't know how you do an internship in biblical studies. Like you go and sign up with an archaeologist to
hang out with Kyle Meeker all day long.
Sure, that probably would have been.
But he would have been new on staff.
He was a youth, brand new.
He was youth.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a discipleship partner then, and we didn't have Immerse.
No, nothing
so
like that.
it would have been hard to do biblical studies.
Yeah, so my academic advisors was just like, just do an internship in worship because that's your minor. It makes sense. So I did. So that's how I got in connection with Johnny, and then as they say.
Well, we saw it when you were an
books unfolded,
intern
and here I
that,
come.
this guy has talent. This guy fits. This guy is great. We would like to keep him.
Well, I tricked you all. No. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And I think the following year, I think it just so happened that they didn't have a worship intern that year. So then they ended up asking if I would stay on in a part-time capacity, which was great. I was finishing my last year of school anyway, so that fit. And then
and so then walk us through the next steps. How did you get to where you are here at Northview?
Well, I ended up getting a full-time job through a series of events, and then and so the trajectory though was always that I was going to kind of take over Johnny's role. Johnny actually was super gracious. Johnny, I learned a lot of when it comes to like leadership and mentorship. I learned a lot through Johnny. He's a pro. Like he is just a great guy. If you don't know Johnny, you're missing out. He's a fantastic.
Well, he has a heart
individual.
for God, a heart for the Bible, a heart for our church, a heart for our church
and those
worldwide.
things above all. He's like, you tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Let's see this church succeed. And I have so much respect and time of day for Johnny. So, because that would have been really hard. Johnny had been here for 18 years, and he was handing this baton off to this, crazy. Who even knows who this guy is?
Ball of energy.
Rambunctious redhead.
He was great and super gracious, and he still is great and super gracious. So yeah. But again, in my hiring process, actually, so Steve Weens was our executive pastor, and he hired me, and he asked, "Hey, so what's your 5-10 year plan? Like, what are you planning on doing long term?" And I told him, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be doing this very long. So if I'm here for a season, and then that season's over and I'm no longer in ministry per se, like that's fine with me. So long as you guys want me to be here and I feel like I have the energy to do it and the skill set to do it, I'll do it. But he said, like, is there anything you'd be interested in doing after worship? And I looked at him and I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say this, but I was like, well, like your job looks kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of doing a lot of like you're combining two things that in many people's minds are not combinable,
right?
Which is, business and church and ministry. And the role that Steve had was a marriage of those two things. You need to know business concepts, and because you still deal with people and money, and so much of how a church runs is still a nonprofit organization. We still have, regulations and all these things to consider that a business has to consider. But it's also church. It's ministry. This has eternal value in a way that a business might not inherently have or may not inherently show. So anyway, I'd asked him that, and he kind of looked at me a little bit like, "Oh, really?
That's what he sounds like."
Well, if that's something you're interested in, you should consider like getting some education toward that. And he recommended like an MBA, a master's in business would be that'd be really helpful for a role like this. So that week, basically, I started looking at schools, and I ended up about 2 years ago. Yeah, January 2017, I began a master's in business in a school in the States, Abilene Christian, which are in the NCAA. Well, they were in the NCAA. I picked them to win. They were out in the first round. So
no, I was gonna say, I think I remember you talking about that in the green room one day.
Yeah,
like thinking to myself, what the heck?
What on earth? Exactly.
Jonathan
so
is doing a business?
I know, and part of the reason I didn't like broadcast, I didn't even broadcast it to many worship people, just because I felt like it was confusing. Like, wait, what are you?
Well,
why?
Because
you're a worship guy.
Yeah. Well, also at the time, if you had given me that spiel about marrying business with church, I would have felt very uneasy about it.
Right.
Like the concept of
Totally.
You were going to run the church as a business.
Right.
That
Don't
doesn't
make us
sound-
corporate.
Doesn't sound loving at all.
Jesus didn't start a nonprofit organization. Yeah, totally. And I get that. I get
And
that.
because people love you leading worship and would have loved for you to continue in that role and can't sometimes adjust very easily to shifting jobs and
Yeah,
job
sure,
descriptions
yeah.
and roles here. So that's a bit tough for people sometimes.
Yeah. And I didn't want to make it sound like I was on to my next thing when I just started
Yeah.
something else. So I didn't really broadcast it a lot and talk about it a lot. And truthfully, there's a lot of things in the business program that are really applicable to any ministry. Like when it comes to people managing and leadership, like there's a whole bunch of different, and vision casting, there's a whole bunch of principles you learn that totally apply to worship leadership. So I don't think it was completely polar opposite extremes. They were just, I'd get when I tell people I was doing a master's in business, I get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
And much the same now. Now I'm moving into Steve. Maybe I'm jumping on your list.
No, go ahead.
So after Steve had resigned, I've been moved into his role in an interim basis just to kind of to test these waters. And much the same when I tell people, I'm actually helping out with, doing some of Steve's role, doing a little bit of the executive pastor work and the administrative side of things. You get a lot of the what? I thought you just played guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you just
When it's
sang
funny
good.
because if you ask guitar players, I get by on guitar. I'm actually not that good of a guitar player. Josh will tell you.
I will tell you, he's good.
I'm adequate.
I'm gonna get someone else to do licks though.
Right. Don't ask me to do licks.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well for you. So So it's funny. I feel like I'm in either party. People who know me from people who know me personally know my bent toward business find it odd that I was doing worship, and people who know me as worship find it odd that I'm now moving into business.
Right.
Did you ever feel like your identity was sort of shifting, or did you always kind of know, like, I'm a business guy who likes music, or did you get attached to leading worship while you were in it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thanks.
You stopped him for a second there. Look at that, Josh.
Wow, he stopped talking. Amazing.
Yeah, finally he stopped. I don't know. I don't know if I would say identity shifting. I think in my mind, because I always knew I wasn't gonna. I knew so much as I foresaw, I wasn't gonna retire being a worship pastor.
Right.
I don't think I ever kind of fully embraced that as an identity. And I would think, actually, if you ask my wife, she would probably tell you that worship ministry and being on the stage, much as I look bouncy and engaging, it's exhausting for me. Being in front of people. I don't know how Jeff does it. I don't know how Johnny did it for so many years. It's so Sunday afternoons for me they are crash times.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to do it. I don't.
What is it do you
Again,
think about that? Let's stop there for a second.
I would love. What I love is doing the behind the scenes stuff that
Okay.
facilitate others to succeed.
Right.
So when I see some of our young leaders coming up and leading, that brings me so much joy. Like more than me being on the stage doing it, what brings me joy is watching others grow into roles like that.
So you leading drains a little bit?
Yeah.
Is it the people stuff, or is it just the energy poured into all of the pieces that you have to watch for?
I think it's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And truthfully, it's probably also a little bit of me wanting to be a perfectionist and there's so many variables when you're on a stage and there's the band and you can't control whether the guitar player is going to play the part right, but you feel a sense of responsibility that
And you will
I'm
stress
the
out
leader.
about it the whole time.
Yeah, and I know that my drummer struggles with this fill and we get to the spot and it's like, oh, okay, he did it good. And then the next service he doesn't do it and you're like, ah!
Yeah.
Or you run into like major issues with like, tech stuff and all of that stuff is out of your control. And it's just, there's so many things out of your control. And perhaps I'm a little bit of a control freak and that's my problem. But
Well, and you want to lead people in worship well. So
Yeah.
you take that burden on.
Yeah.
And so in the afternoons would be crash time because you'd be so tired.
yeah. And I think there's a level of like, if you do a whole weekend and you're not a little bit tired, I'm kind of like, did you try?
Yeah. True.
But I also think there was a level of exhaustion I felt that probably, and I still do feel like to this day, I'm still going to be leading every once in a while. Well, especially as this is an interim position, I'll still be on the occasional weekend. But yeah, it's still so, yeah, it's hard. It's draining, and I love it. Like I
We don't have to feel sorry for you up there.
Yeah, totally. Don't.
It's okay.
Poor him. And I love it, and like my enthusiasm, I feel is genuine
Yes,
because
it is.
like the words we're singing about is true, and it even just now talking
Yeah.
about it, I get pumped, and
Yeah.
it makes me excited. So it's genuine, but it's
Yeah.
also exhausting. So
you've passed the baton to who?
yeah, Andrew. Andrew's taken on. He's our associate pastor in worship. Andrew Gettert. He's tall, skinny piano player, and the guy he's a musical. Yeah, he is creative and talented, and I'm really excited for how he can continue to develop our worship ministry and bring us places both musically and creatively. He's great. He's really good for the role. So he's going to be stepping in at the very least for the interim here. He's going to be stepping into leadership, and my hope is that he stays there for a season.
So where are you at in your degree?
I am in a business analytics class right now, and it is awful. It's like stats on steroids. This is the hardest part of the MBA program, but I got this one, and then I got one more class in the summer, and then I graduate.
Nice.
So
how has it been trying to do your MBA, trying to be employed, a husband and a dad? What is making it work?
honestly, my wife, she's amazing. Actually, but it's a decision I made, or it's just a decision we made when we kind of looked at our trajectory. I didn't have to start my MBA as soon as I did. Actually, truthfully, looking in hindsight, it's somewhat providential I did, because my plan was actually to start it once the kids were a little bit older. Mm-hmm. But I kind of got some counsel from some people who had done education with older kids. And the counsel that I got was that it doesn't get easier when your kids get older to do school, because as they get older, you want to be more involved with them. You want to be in their soccer practices and their their school plays and stuff. And when they're kids, they go to bed at 7. Yeah. So, I mean, much as it's not fun to do homework in the evenings until like 11 or 12 at night, if you want to be with your kids, it's easier. And so that ended up being, it was one of those things we looked at it and it's like, if I'm going to do this, it's now or
just get her done.
Way later.
Yeah.
And it was my wife is, she's incredible. She's really, really, she's fantastic.
She has her counseling training, and she's on our list of approved counselors. I just love her.
Yeah,
so thankful
she's
for
a marriage
her.
and family therapist, and so she therapizes me a lot too, I'm sure. So sometimes I have to tell her not to. It's like, stop psychoanalyzing me again.
No, we can't help it.
No, I know.
Us counselor people.
Yeah. No, she's great though, and she was super gracious, and she's picked up so much. Mm-hmm. I think these past seasons, the past years have been really stretching. And I mean, young kids and all of that on its own is very stretching. So she's picked up so much of stuff that might have fallen through or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she lets me focus at work when I'm at work, and school when I'm at school, and then when I'm at home, I'm at home. So which is good.
What do you do to recharge?
Man, sit on the couch.
Nice.
Probably. Yeah, no, actually one of the things that has got us through this past season is much as our kids are high maintenance and challenging, they go to bed early. So most of the time, as long as I'm not working in the evenings, my wife and I we have evenings. So we'll watch shows or watch movies, or
nice.
She'll let me.
Favorite show?
Oh,
go.
Man.
I've been waiting to ask that the whole time.
Really? You know what? Probably Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
So good.
It's so good.
I love that show.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. It's not for everybody. No. My wife actually, she's like, I guess it's funny, but Andy Samberg is hilarious. I don't think she quite gets his humor.
I kind of think it's a guy thing.
Maybe it's a guy thing.
There's lots of guys who love it, and
it's so awesome.
Us girls are kind of like,
Jenna loves it too.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's not a guy thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. There's shows like that. I couldn't even. I'd have to go back and like recount the shows that have got us through the last couple of years. But that, and then I mean, I love watching sports and.
Who do you cheer for?
Oh man, I'm soccer. I'm a Liverpool guy, so don't tell Jeff.
Why?
He knows.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
So I became a Liverpool fan back in 2005. I believe it was 2005. In the Champions League final, Liverpool played AC Milan in Istanbul. They were down 3-0 at half, and they came back to win. And it was a storybook win. And I was like, oh man! And I'm a big fan of Steven Gerrard. If you guys are familiar with Premier League and soccer, Steven Gerrard was like, he was the guy I modeled my game after, which is funny because I'm nothing like him. I'm not even close to Steven Gerrard. But
Did you think you were at one point?
oh, I definitely thought I was.
Cool.
Oh yeah, are you kidding? I was Steven Gerrard reincarnated.
Nice.
No, yeah. So I was a big fan. So I watch Saturday mornings. I love watching soccer, and I'll text with Jeff and make fun of his team because they're terrible. And Liverpool actually has a shot this year at the Premier League. They've lost ground, and Manchester City looks like they're going to take it again. But
Are you
big
the only
fan of
Liverpool guy on staff?
I've kind of converted Andrew Geddert,
Okay.
and I don't know if that was just because I was his boss for a while and he kind of had to.
Yeah.
But I think I was able to convince. Again, part of my abilities is in sales.
Yeah.
So I did-
Infiltrate
Yeah.
the staff.
Yeah. So I sold Andrew on Liverpool a little bit, but I think I'm the only guy who's been a long-term Liverpool fan. But
Is
I
your-
watch Liverpool. I watch the Canucks as well. A big fan of the Canucks. Always have been. Although I did boycott them for a while. I boycotted the NHL after the last lockout. That was what I did.
Which is nice because the tickets are cheaper now. So
Are they?
great?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
You have no time to go to games.
I went to one.
Oh, you did?
Greg took me to one this past weekend, and the Canucks lost
Nice.
5-0.
Oh.
It was awful.
Big oof.
Thanks, Wayne Dahl, for the tickets. Yeah, appreciate
shout
it.
out.
Yeah, shout out to Wayne Dahl. So yeah, I watch the Canucks. I watch Whitecaps. I watch basically anything. I watch Seahawks. Big fan of the Seahawks. Been to a couple of games.
Basketball?
I casually follow the Raptors. I feel a little
Okay.
weird following Toronto teams, but
Okay.
I casually follow the Blue Jays and the Raptors.
Okay.
I'm aware of the team, and
Okay.
when they make trades and whatever else not and signings. I kind of know a little bit too much about sports.
Golf?
It's probably a
Tennis?
problem. I know things. I don't follow them actively, but yeah, I know. I'll know the major players.
Yeah.
I watch TSN a lot, so anything that's put on TSN and Sportsnet, I'll be familiar
Okay.
with. I can converse about those things. Whether or not my opinions are educated is another question.
As long as you think they're educated, that's what.
I am full of opinions. You'll always have a fountain of opinions in me. Yeah, it's whatever.
So, last words from Jonathan before we wrap up.
Oh boy, no pressure.
Last questions from Josh for Jonathan.
yeah.
I do have kind of one question. So as you've been involved with Northview, let's say, what has been like the biggest challenge, or maybe after dealing with your friend passing away and like sort of starting it, what has been like the biggest challenge for you
Like in life or
in like ministry? Like once you decided sort of you kind of knew what general direction you're going in.
Oh man. Oh, I don't even know how to answer that. Biggest challenge?
Or like a couple of
In ministry.
the big challenges that you remember going through. Maybe more specific.
think-
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll take your question and I'll run with it maybe somewhere you didn't intend. But I think one of the things that I wrestled with, especially in the season when I didn't really know what I was doing, was the nature of calling in ministry.
yeah.
And I think that was something that I had always. So my grandfather's a pastor, and I have family, like great grandfather who was a pastor, and I always felt this feeling that if you're supposed to be doing ministry, if God has called you to ministry, there will be this tangible feeling that you can't do anything else but ministry.
Right.
And to be 100% honest, I've never really felt that feeling. And as I started to learn about the nature of the calling, you start to realize that the way the Bible talks about the calling isn't really so much about vocational ministry, and it's about ministry, period. And the reality is that all Christians are called to ministry. I think how you exercise that calling is not necessarily always something that's as clear as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I think I still wrestle with that today.
Yeah.
Even now, where it's like, do I see myself in this role forever? Like, am I called to do this forever? And I'm not really sure. And what I've kind of come to realize is that so long as the church and the church leadership identify an ability in you and affirm that ability in you, you should prayerfully consider it, and if you're willing to do it. So for me personally, again, I never really thought I was going to be a worship pastor, but when Northview was like, "Would you consider staying on in this role full time?" my abilities, I think I had the abilities, and at the time it fit in my life. I was like, you know what? I will take this as the calling of God to step into the ministry for this season. Because God uses his church to speak, right? Like we are his, the church is his ambassador to the world. So I in faith, I kind of stepped into that, and that has ended up leading me to where I am now. And in hindsight, I would say that God had his hands through the whole thing, even though I never really felt like that distinct, you will be in ministry calling. Do you know what I mean?
Much
that's
opposed
helpful.
to Ezra last week, who had the tangible, Ezra, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that that will be the case for some people. And it was never really the case. And it still to this day isn't really the case for me. But so long as my skill sets match with a need in the church and that is affirmed by church leadership, I'm going to keep going at it, because that's...
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
We have a creative God, and he has made all these different people, and he has different ways of, encouraging them to do what he wants them to do for the good of people and the church and the community.
Totally.
And so how it looks for Ezra isn't the same as how it looks for you or Jeff or whoever.
Yeah, and I think that just the very nature that Ezra and Jeff and I are all different, like it should be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's probably been the biggest. I don't know if that answers your question.
That was
at all.
good.
It does, yeah.
But coming out of that, I never thought I never pictured myself in ministry. So
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a huge thing, especially young adults looking for the feeling, and then being, I don't know if I feel it.
Yeah.
And that like genuinely affecting them.
Yeah.
think,
And I think, I mean, I would take that even beyond ministry. I would take that to like work in general and life in general. I mean, like there's so many. I feel like maybe it's something that's like perpetrated by Hollywood or something, but like when you know, you'll know.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's been very few times in my life where I've been like, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I just, like even with in my marriage, right, in my life there, it was like, I looked at, when I met my wife now, her name's Brianna, when I met her, I was like, you know what? She could be someone who I could see myself marrying. But it was never like it's gotta be her.
Yeah.
It's gotta be her, and no one else will.
And the audible voice.
Yeah.
And
Or I mean, and as you kind of move forward in a relationship, there's a level of commitment that needs to be there. It can't be like, well, I guess it could be. It needs to get to that. No, it will be her. But even there, it was never like an audible voice. It was like, no, this is someone who matches like the description of like a good, godly wife. And is this someone I could see? Like, are we like relationally compatible? This is where dating kind of comes in. Like, could we make this work? And it's the answer is yes, we could. It's like, okay, are we going to commit to making this work?
Yeah.
And that was how. So I mean, that's a total tangent, but that's how our relationship was. It was like, let's like, and I love her deeply, and I did when I met her. But like, I feel like young adults are given this feeling that if you don't unequivocally know, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, don't. If that's going to be your approach, you might never do anything.
Yeah.
You might never get married. You might never get a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at some point, you kind of have to be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So that's my experience. I know my experience is not truth for everyone.
No, I think that's helpful.
But
Yeah. And Josh, it's going to be interesting as we interview more people on staff to see what their view on this kind of thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 100% you're going to get different perspectives on it. So.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Jonathan. It's been really great talking with you.
Well, I hope you're still listening at this point, and I did talk a lot. I have the ability
That
to do
is the purpose. It was behind the scenes with Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
See ya.